Day, as some people call it, 3.14, 2024, and we are here for Gimbalabs Open Spaces. Sometimes at Open Spaces, we start off by making a list of things that we might talk about. Today, right before we went live, we decided to jump right back into the proposal that we left off discussing yesterday. So I shared a link in the chat and also in Discord yesterday so people can review it. And now I'll pull it up on the screen. Where we left off yesterday is we consented to this driver. So this hasn't been changed since yesterday. And then what I did yesterday afternoon is took the bullet points that formed like from our conversations, and I tried to organize things into a proposal. What you'll notice kind of generally as you move down through the bullet points is that they get shorter each time. And I was well, and not exactly. I guess the timeline is pretty detailed, but I was kind of excited to see this process as I was writing of background and rationale saying, well, yeah, there's a lot to potentially say here. So let's set the table for that. But then when it comes to outcomes, we can say it relatively succinctly, or responsibilities. We can say that pretty succinctly. So I was kind of interested in how that was happening. And if you have the link, you'll see that you've got these little toggle arrows just in case you want to make it easier to navigate the proposal. So what I'd like to do is go through the process of moving towards consent. And ideally, if people think this proposal is good enough for now and safe enough to try, then we can move forward with it. What I'll do is 3 steps. First, I just want to read the driver out loud so we can hear it and recognize why we're here together. Then we'll do a round of clarifying questions about the proposal. If there's anything you don't understand the way it's written in this document, you can bring that question. Finally, I'll ask for, are there any concerns or objections that would prevent this proposal from being good enough for now and safe enough to start applying? So I'll start by reading the proposal driver. Does anybody have any questions about the 3-step process today? All right, so here's our driver. Currently, Gimbalabs Plutus PBL course is out of date and needs revision. It also has a general scope that is too big to be approachable to many learners. The current course does not support students to learn up-to-date Cardano development skills, and often students get stuck. The effect is that Gimbalabs does not currently have an up-to-date course for onboarding new Cardano developers. We need to update and focus the Plutus PBL course to a 2024 version and to consider what some other PBL courses could be. The new version of PPBL 2024 can focus on guiding developers to understand the architecture of an application built on Cardano by implementing validator logic and corresponding transactions across a series of applied examples. Excuse me. The course should be adaptable to changes in the Cardano development ecosystem. By attending to this need, we will continue to provide safe spaces to learn and courses that empower individuals to define their individual learning pathways and start contributing to real projects. We consented to this yesterday. And so now for the next part of the agenda, does anybody have clarifying questions about any parts of the proposal that you don't understand? I can open this up on the screen for reference, but you've all got the link. And so you can zoom in and read through it. clarifying questions?
Could we get the comments set up to where we could? I remember we used to be able to comment. Did anyone
Let
else
me
have problems
see.
commenting?
That is because, okay, I have commenting turned off here. So let me, yeah, we don't want to duplicate as a template on this doc, but allow commenting. All right, that should be turned on now.
Seeing in the chat, Claudio's asking for, could anybody please post the link to the Discord announcement?
Yes. It was here. Copy message link. Try this announcement link.
I'm clicking on that link and I have no, oh yeah, it brought up Discord in my browser. It's so nuts.
Yeah. And here, can you
Oh,
see?
I did notice something here is that you use the at education. So this is something I think it might be new with the new Discord redesign. In order
Yeah.
to get notifications on that, you have to sign up for a role, which I think is in the Start Here channel. Yeah. And there's you can subscribe to these different circles by reacting to a post. It's somewhat common in Discord, but if you're not familiar, it might be a little something to learn. But
So
that's how to
I
get
don't
those.
think notification bot is set up yet. So even if you do pick the role at this moment, you still have to like say, hey, for this channel, I need the notification. We still need to set that up. Yeah.
Okay. I could go on a backlog somewhere. Let's see. Set up Discord bot notification. I'm putting it down.
Thanks.
I was looking for it. I went looking for it right before I went to bed last night, and was like, "Oh, crap!" And that's. But I realized that I hadn't signed up for reacted to that post, and so yeah. So, but that was definitely attention because I knew that you were working on it, and I was like, "Oh, I really wanted to read it."
I wasn't sure where to put the proposal in Discord, but I chose the education channel because really that is the scope of this proposal, first and foremost. But yeah, let's think about if there's a proposal A moving into the future, who is responsible for approving it? That's something we're working on together. And then B, where would any given proposal be posted? And the answer might be different for different proposals. Okay, so yeah, we'll work on that. All of this contributes to systems that are coming into focus as we practice using them. With regards to this proposal, commenting should now be available. And does anybody have any clarifying questions? Is there anything that just doesn't make sense or is not understandable in this proposal?
Feels like
we gave it time.
There's general, yeah.
Good. How about now we move on to the final phase? So, are there objections to this proposal being implemented as it's currently written?
And just for while you're thinking, objections are something that you see, and there's like kind of like a format for it, but there's something that you see that you feel can change, and that there's a reason. You're like, oh, this should change because we're missing, and then they have two different things, like missing an opportunity. It's like, oh, we're missing an opportunity here, or there's a danger or a risk. So it's kind of like, I feel this should happen because we are missing an opportunity, or I feel this should happen so that we avoid a risk. Yeah. And I guess you could add things here. I don't know. I don't know exactly if you can add, but you probably more likely want to react to things that are there as opposed to, ooh, it could include this.
Right. And this is a link that has been shared around a few times over the last few days. Right. And part of our work is that we've done the consent to driver, but we've also written the proposal a little bit collectively, right? I got some feedback and kind of opened the door in that proposal writing process. You can imagine where that won't always be the case, where somebody is just going to write a fully formed proposal and then bring it to a group. And in which case, right, maybe there would be some presentation there. We went through the understanding part where I asked for clarifying questions. Oh, but I did skip this part. I guess if we're really practicing, we could do a brief response part. Should we practice that?
Yeah, it might be good, because I think it helps to sort of generate, as just, and then do a round so that everybody speaks, because right now no one's really talking.
Right. which is also, and this is one tension I'm feeling as I explore S3, is sometimes we wait too long for somebody to talk. And then somebody's like, well, somebody's got to say something here, right? But
exactly.
I don't know how to tell if there really are no clarifying questions necessary, but maybe that's why the brief response round is here.
I think this is like a Zoom thing versus an in-person thing, because all of the because in person we would see like body language, people would be making eye contact or vibing, so we don't really know. So it's like a vibe check. You can call brief response, like in the Web3 world, you could just say, hey, let's vibe check on this. Like, how are people feeling? And then
and this is not meant, I also recognize that we are moving on from the bureaucratic stage. And so let's practice this. I'll call people out just like during the check-in that we do at the start of a meeting. Okay. But if your answer is, no comments, that's okay. Or right. So you could be very quick, but if there's anything that you want to just say, whether it's a concern or something that you're excited about, you can say that. But let's try to move quickly through this and see how the practice goes. So I'm going to go backwards across my grid here in the order I see folks. I'm going to call the proposal back up on the stage so it's in front of us. And we'll do a quick response round. Harsha, how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good about it at the moment. But I do remember seeing something like I can't remember the whole proposal, but somewhere it's mentioned we need to figure out what in the future, if someone else comes up and presents like a proposal saying, hey, I want to like build a course, what does it take to be approved? But I don't know if it's a part of the proposal, although I do remember reading it somewhere. But yeah.
That's correct. Oh, sorry. And during a response round, I shouldn't respond. As the presenter of this proposal, I am going to want to say things to everybody, but I have to not. All right. So passing it to Chris. And it's okay if anybody wants to pass, that's okay. So let's go to Nelson.
I'm feeling pretty good about this proposal, and I'm ready to take it on.
Adrian.
Looks good, nothing to add.
Ken.
Yeah, I think it looks good. Yeah.
Martin.
Yeah, following along. Think it's a good starting point. Sure.
Alex.
I kind of missed the part what counts as an objection, so I'm not sure. I would make it shorter if I could, but I cannot.
Claudio.
I'm good. I think it's a good starting point, as Martin says. It's let's see how it develops.
Hinson.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good on the content. I'm thinking about a bit on the process. Like, is it currently because we are trying to use a Gimbalabs treasury, so that's why we are trying to go through a kind of a consensus through us, some sort of consensus. But let's say if Cdan Labs could offer some of the budgets to build something that we want, how is the kind of the process should look like? I'm just thinking this in my head.
Sebastian. And Juan.
Yeah, I see that we have a very compelling driver here, a great example of how S3 is going to help all of us, play with the Gimbalabs programs. So yes, I think it's perfect. Thanks.
And Newman.
I'm feeling really good about it. I think it definitely fits. Like, it's better than possibly what we did before, and that we can build on this. This is in my opinion, good enough for now, safe enough to try. It's going to get us in a much better spot, and I'm really thankful for the process, even though taking some time. But I think the time we spend now, we would save in the future and get us to a better spot.
Thank you, everybody. It's exciting to hear responses, and I'm navigating the space of wanting to respond to each response, but that's not the protocol. So very, very good stuff. There are a couple of like higher level questions that Harsha and Hinson shared that I think we should return to, but that wouldn't be part of the scope of choosing to move forward on this proposal. So they're kind of like zoomed out to what's the process for the next proposal. Let's touch on that today if we have time in this meeting. But for now, let's move on to this next part of the process. Just going to go back to this link for just a moment. Now we check for possible objections, okay? If one is shared, there's this process. We can test if it qualifies and resolve it. But we don't have to force ourselves to come up with objections. So I'm going to open the floor to objections right now. And if you do have a concern or anything that you think makes this proposal unsafe to try, not good enough for now, that's what you would bring to this final round. So I'll ask the question. Are there any possible objections or concerns to this proposal? An objection is an argument relating to the proposal or the agreement or this activity. This is a proposal that proposes some activity by one or more of us that reveals consequences or risks that are preferably avoided for the organization or that demonstrates worthwhile ways that we can improve this. A concern is an assumption that can't be backed up by reasoning, but it's just something that you're concerned about, right? You don't have to back it up, but if you want to just bring that. And what's the difference? Well, if somebody has an objection, then we have to address it before we can claim to have consent to move forward with this proposal. On the other hand, a concern, if there's something you just want to say because you feel it needs to be said right now, but it's not stopping us from moving forward, this is a chance to do that. And right, sometimes it feels really good to say, well, I am concerned about this thing, but I'm not objecting. This doesn't stop us from going ahead with the proposal. Ken, what do you think?
I was noticing it doesn't say much about the adaptability stuff that we talked about yesterday. I'm not sure how much that needs to be in the proposal stage.
The adaptability of the course itself.
Yes.
Excellent. Good. So following the process, we can now check if that qualifies as an objection or if that's just a concern. And the way I'd like to figure out if this is a concern or an objection is by, as the proposer, responding to that. Okay, so the way I'm thinking about this is that we will and now I'm trying to remember if I specifically put it in here. Yes, okay. That this, what I tried to do is address my own concern, Ken, about the same exact thing right here. So review and adaptation. How can we ensure that the course is revised and kept up to date in an ongoing way? I think that's really important. And I think it should be a separately scoped proposal. And the reason I think so is that writing the course is work of its own that can happen in these two phases. And I believe that by focusing on writing first, we can be sure that we make progress on this, which is then a prerequisite to having the future work of keeping the course well maintained. Or in other words, there's nothing to maintain if we don't write the course first. And that's why I think of these as separate scopes from each other. Does that help to frame your concern as a concern and not an objection to moving forward?
Sure, I guess so. Yeah, I think it's more at a meta level that I'm thinking like the process in general for building a course. How do you get the feedback and incorporate it into changes? Like, yeah, so it's just more of a level thing, I think.
Of that.
Okay. I wanted, if I could, I'd raising my hand. I'd like to jump in. Because when I saw this adaptation plan part, I remember, and one of the things I really liked as a course designer and someone that has thought deeply about educational experiences, that we did something really cool, and I would like to include it. We did the mid-course survey. It was something that I really liked, and I didn't see it here. It feels like it would go into there. Is this something that would be like a separate proposal, or is it something that we want to put into this proposal?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that's a great objection, and I think it should be included here. So can I add a bullet point for we will publish once again a mid-course survey or something like it by a certain date?
Yeah, that would be perfect. And then just some clarification, because we did go into like the naming of things, and we'd sort of suggested like the difference between sort of technical and non-technical, and like naming it after the languages and frameworks, or and there was suggested like the subtitle of Cardano Development 101, which I thought was pretty good. And here it says in September 2024 review, and it feels like maybe that was like, okay, what will we review in September 2024? Mm-hmm. And that feels like summative, or like a course summary feedback. Like when we do a mid-course review, like in the summer, I think it happened last time, that's sort of in time to make changes, right then. And then there is one like at the end of it, then you're like, okay, when we make it for next year, sort of like right after it's finished, we collect information. I do think that this review and adaptation plan is important in an iterative process, because it's really where you build the backlog for the next iteration. So it's the thing that helps with that evolutionary process. So it might be good to spend some time here, because that's what grows and makes things more safe, and more, more good. Safe enough for now, safer later. Good enough to good enough to try gooder later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Okay.
So while you were saying that, I wanted to close a little bit back on Ken's point as well about the ongoing review. So I added this line to this one. So publish the survey, let's say by the end of June, before July 2024, ideally sooner. But that's a nice, safe, I think, deadline. And part of our work is to create processes for responding to learner feedback when we collect those survey results. We want it to be clear to students that we're reading the results and responding to them. And we want to be able to update the course when those survey results expose holes in the course.
Oh, that's weird. My version of I'm looking at it on the Notion site, and it's not updating. So I can
even on refresh, you're not getting that?
Yeah, I've just refreshed it. Okay, but no worries. I can.
Okay.
Side point.
And then
no, it made it. It made it. It just took a little time. Okay.
Okay.
That's great, and I think that's a wonderful example of an objection and being able to resolve. I feel like it's resolved. Like my objection is resolved, and with that, yeah.
So I want to get to Hinson's comments, but now Newman, to what you were saying about course naming and that decision process. There's a very specific reason I put it here, and it's that I would have a concern about taking the time to change the name of the course right now.
Yeah.
With the number of balls that all of us are currently juggling and the imperative to start soon on building the thing, I don't want to be derailed by even considering what the name is yet, and rather just hold on to where we are. In addition to some practical things like the domain name, right? We're already hosted there. We already have some name recognition for this. If we change the name, there's practical concerns like where the course is hosted, and there's marketing concerns about getting the word. And so it feels easier to keep it for those reasons for now. But I recognize it might not be the best name for the course. And so I would want to say, let's definitely review that after writing it and take a decision into the future. How does that feel?
No, that feels 100%. And I didn't mean to say that we should change the name. It's more like that we call it this. It's kind of like the evolution of a name. Like this used to be Live Coding. Now it's sort of Open Spaces. But yeah, that feels good. That's I can see it just being Plutus PPL, but it's just, we all know it's a Cardano developer 101 for Gimbalabs, it's kind of
and there's a note about that somewhere in the proposal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's up at the top. Yeah. So it's the end of section 2. Okay. Yeah. To Hinson is labeling these as concerns. So thinking of it that way. And I think this is a valid concern and not an objection. This is a great example, right? Hey, maybe this is not enough to fund people to write lessons. We'll find out. But is it safe enough to move forward? That's what I get in this word. And similar up here, when it says PPBL 2024, thinking if it's possible to be ready earlier. I know when they released like a new car, right? The 2024 models actually came out in late 2023. It would be nice and forward looking if we were there. I want to move faster on this. So I'm excited once we get the approval to work on this project, to really be using this open spaces time and whatever other time we can make to focus on building this course. So really, really excited about that. Yeah, releasing in the second half would be a concern of mine as well. I want it before the second half of the year, and intend to stick to that timeline. So here's the general timeline was here. I'd like to have a set of learning targets 2 weeks from now, and I'd like to start publishing the course by mid-April and having that rollout going. So within the next month, solidifying the course outline. We could even start today if we get through this round of objections, and then writing content starting 2 weeks from now for a gradual rollout that's already ongoing by April. Other concerns or objections? I like this, sharing it as a comment or just in the chat or unmuting. Any other concerns or objections? All right. If there are none, then we can say that we have reached an agreement for this proposal to be underway. And we're supposed to celebrate. Woo!
And we're celebrating. We're celebrating.
Really, it's it's been a great process. Thanks everybody for going like this. And our goal is to get faster at this process. There's a lot of ways we're going to do that. But the first time's always the hardest. So way to go. Thank you for getting us to this point. And here comes Plutus PBL 2024. Juan.
How do you like the support that S3 is giving us? Amazing, huh?
You practice processes, it starts to pay off. And it's very, very hard for a big group of people to get to the point where processes start to pay off. So congratulations all.
And just in staying in the celebration zone, just think about how we would feel if this all happened somewhere else and then was presented to us. Like, it's so cool to have an opportunity to react to it, have an opportunity to have a concern or an objection, to work through it. Like, this to me feels like that democratic, open, collaborative effort to make something that we all are going to deal with. Like, this will be our plan through the thing. It's not perfect. It's not, but we could spend all this time trying to make it perfect and get really frustrated, and our energy right now, I'm stoked to write, look at all the SLTs and it just feels like now it's our plan, the consent process sort of worked. And then I don't think it took a long time. I think this is a real thing, because this will be our big effort. This is our big, what do they call it? The just cause. This is important. I don't know if Alex shared that. I'm sorry, I get so excited. Alex did a great thing, and he shared that community survey, and it was talking about there's barriers to becoming a developer on Cardano. There's barriers to learning this new UTXO model, which I think can be world changing. It's a whole new mental model of how to create software. It's a big mental model just for functional software, functional programming. So this could make a big impact if we make a course that's really fun and engaging and has a community around it and does the decentralized work that works with this type of governance. This is different. This is not Emergo. This is not Cardano Foundation. We're in a different thing. So I think celebration. I'm celebrating on the inside, and I'm letting it out.
Woo! Go. Oh man, one of the things I get most excited about is building a course like this. So let's go have some fun. So I just added a task to the board to review the current course outline. Actually, before we do, check it out. This goes from proposal to in progress. Let's do it.
Yeah.
We're gonna deliver the course. Okay. We're gonna deliver this course by, let's check the timeline, by the 1st of July. So we're going to be publishing from April through June, the lessons that we agree on. But this is a project, and as such, it has a definitive start and end date. It's going to start right now, and it's going to be done by July 1st. How's that look? Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Quickly to touch on what Harsha shared. We have the potential to build additional courses, and those should go through this process if we are seeking some way to use funding to build those courses. Okay. So at the end of the day, this proposal asks for some amount of funds for content writers. This is going to come from the Gimbal pool rewards. Okay. If we weren't using funding in any way, and if somebody just had a course in mind that they just wanted to build, they don't have to write a proposal to do that. If you have a course and you just want to build it without asking for permission, go for it. And for example, over at Mesh, we are building the Mesh PBL course independently from Gimbalabs. That was a Mesh team Catalyst proposal. They convened a team to do that work. So that work's just happening over there. It's going to benefit Gimbalabs because we're going to be able to point people to it. But we didn't have to ask Gimbalabs permission to do that work. Okay. So that's the high level thing I just want to share here. If you have other courses that you want to build and you want to either get collaboration from other people or use some funds, that's what proposals are for, to build alignment among the team for how we use each other's time and funding. Is that good enough to leave that there for now, how we think about future courses? Okay, let's jump into this one. This is now an in-progress project. And if I look at the Gimbalabs Notion, we now have this course in progress. We're working on getting Notion accounts for people. We'll work on that as we go. And we are working on delivering Plutus PBL. I also have a draft of a proposal that I'm going to bring when I have time. And I just have a space here to take some notes on it. Okay. But this is what's in progress. This is what matters. One.
I just have a clarifying question in reference to so this space is going to be used for a breakout room to be used to this project, or there will be the main room of how that is going to be structured in the future?
Very good. Okay, so we have open spaces time on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And today we broke with the script a little bit because we all knew we wanted to jump right into passing this proposal. Okay. Most days at open spaces, we show up and we all share sticky notes for what we might want to talk about during that open spaces. Okay. And then we choose what stays in the main room. Personally, for the next few weeks, when I show up for these Wednesday and Thursday meetings, I'm going to be bound for a breakout room focused on Education Circle, delivering this proposal. And there's really going to be no deviation from that for me for the next 2 or 3 weeks at least, while we get this work underway. But there might be other breakout rooms. There might be other proposals that people want to write, and there might be work in the other 4 circles of Gimbalabs that people want to focus on. And everybody has the ability to bring those topics to these open spaces. Does that make sense? Okay. But yeah, full disclosure, this is what I'm using open spaces time for. I'll be in a breakout room for the next few weeks because this is the timely, urgent, and in progress work. So now Notion really kind of helps because we have a Kanban board right here. And eventually we're going to start having individual tasks here. But for now, this is the first thing we want to do. let's go to in progress. I just want to review the current course outline with everybody. I don't think you can see the task board on the public link to this document. So this is where having Notion accounts will help. And we already approved a proposal to bring people into Notion when they're ready to really start contributing. Okay, but I can show you on my screen just how we track this a little bit. And don't worry, I'll keep making things public. For example, this link right here is a public link to a Git repository. And I'll drop it in the Zoom chat as well. I'm going to open it up, and it's just a course.json file that, oh, that is not a public repo. Let me fix that.
It's just asking me to sign in. Is
Yeah,
it one of those where
that's because I don't, let me make this a public repo, and it won't ask you to sign in anymore. Oh, all right. Don't worry about, I'm not going to take the time to fix that. It's actually in a private group. I didn't realize that group was private. But that's not my goal. Let me not take group time to fix that. Instead, what I'm going to do here is I just want to grab the contents of this JSON file so we can start looking at it together. So let me grab it from here. Copy. One of the cool things about Notion is that I'm right here in a doc, okay? And consider this part of just ongoing, little by little. We'll be learning how to use this tool. I want to make a new page, so I'm just going to type / and then I'm going to type the word page. Whoops, just page. Try that again. / page. That's what I want. And this gives me a new page. I'm going to call this PPBL 2023 course outline and SLTs.
24.
I'm going to copy into this document that JSON file right here. Good. And then I'm just going to publish this so everybody else can look at it. Let's publish. Let's not allow editing and duplication, but let's, yes, allow commenting like before. And now I've got a link that everybody can share. Okay, so you can drop into this link, just like when we were looking at the proposal. Here's a document that's part of the project that we're now working on that people can use publicly. And you could start to see why it's going to be really convenient for other people to be in this Notion account. And like Newman said in the chat, exactly, this is the 2023 course outline. But it's helpful, I think, for a few reasons. One, it shows us what we might want to teach again. And two, it gives us a way to see what we don't want to do again. So let's take a look. The way to read this file, yeah, I already changed the title of it in the repo, but I didn't change the content yet. The way to read this file is you can see that we have module number 101. It had a title called Getting Started. That can be changed. And it had 4 learning targets in it. And there they are. And these lessons, I thought I got rid of these. Those don't help us with anything yet, because basically the lessons follow the learning targets. So I'm just going to delete those for clarity, so we can really focus on only the lesson, or excuse me, only the learning target content. Would have been easier if this was still in a code editor. Bulk text isn't great, but this is all right. Though it doesn't take too long. Almost there. It's giving you a chance to get acclimated.
For sure.
And some of this stuff, there are some learning targets that we wrote last year, and we never got around to building those lessons because we're always learning a little bit more. Here's one that I missed. All right. Oh, now we've got the nice formatting because we got rid of some. I can format the code. There we go. Okay, that looks a lot better. Right. So, and I might even have collapsibility. No, it doesn't give me that. All right. What is in a course outline? There's a list of modules. What's in a module? Just a number for that module, a title, and then a list of learning targets. At the end of the day, there's going to be a lesson written for each of these learning targets. There will then be projects and assignments that touch on sets of learning targets. All right, let me say that one more time. All right. At the end of when we deliver this course, every learning target will have a one-to-one relationship with a lesson, exactly one lesson per learning target. But then we're going to have projects and assignments that can span multiple learning targets or even multiple modules, right? A project might have you do a little bit of this and this, and then you might come back to that project later to do a little bit of this and this, okay? Yes, and I'll share these document links in Discord after this meeting, absolutely. So that's the framing, right? And learning targets help us make a very clear promise about what we intend to teach in this course. So we're not starting from zero right now. What if we go through, and if you have access to this document, make sure to open it up. And if you have comments, you can make a comment like, comment, right? You can say, remove this SLT, right? Or you could say, keep it. Or you could say, change this to, right?
Hey, James.
To text. Yep.
Seems the comment function is not on right now.
Says
okay. Check
comment.
again.
Yeah, it might take a bit of time to like filter through. So keep hitting the refresh. It definitely. I see Claudio has his hand up.
Hey, Claudio.
Yes, a question that it hasn't come up explicitly and kind of worries me. One of the things we do is that we set up lessons, and then at the end of the module, there will be an assignment to assess a group of lessons, right? We haven't talked about at all, like if the people writing the lessons will also be responsible for grading the assignments or reviewing the assignment commitments, or should we aim to have a more, what I really like about many other courses, of course it takes a lot more work, but it implements an automatic system. They automate some testing that you can just run and tells you you pass or you didn't. So we get rid of the manual labor of grading and grading. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about this in this edition.
100%. Okay. Now, if anybody who worked through the course last year, you saw that there was some kind of automated feedback for some of these learning targets. And then you saw that that didn't continue for the whole course. Right. And so why did that automated feedback exist? That actually comes back around bigger picture, Claudio, to what you're saying about who's going to be in charge of assessing the assignments, approving that the assignments are complete. And that's kind of a job. There should be a budget for that too. So there's a couple of dots I want to connect here because this is really helpful for people to think about how we build this course, okay? First of all, we are going to want people to be facilitators of this course. And facilitators will do things like support with live coding sessions and grade the student assignments. How we fund the facilitator work needs to be a different proposal. All right, and this is the beauty of writing proposals like this. This proposal is simply about writing the course, and it's going to push us to write a future proposal about how we support facilitators to do the work of supporting the course. With that said, we have this concept of assignments, okay? And the way it's going to work is that every module is going to have one assignment that serves as evidence or proof of whether or not the learner learned these things. Okay, let's unpack that for just a second. Okay, this module right here, and again, maybe some of you are familiar with this, so the concept might make sense because you already saw it in the course last year. This module creates on-chain evidence for 3 of these 4 learning targets. Okay, if you can get some free test data from the pre-prod testnet, well, that's a transaction. We can look at that transaction on chain and know if your wallet did that. If you can mint the contributor token, well, great, you're already done, right? There's also evidence that that happened on chain. And then we assume that this evidence and this evidence right here is sufficient to prove that you can do this part. There's a bit of an assumption there, but this is a chain of outcomes. And our goal as course facilitators is to only work as hard as we have to. So imagine a scenario that I consider undesirable. If our goal was to make sure that every individual person could show us that they can connect their Cardano wallet to pre-prod, wouldn't that create a lot of bureaucracy? How are we going to have people do that? What am I going to do? Open up a Zoom room, have people share screen and show me how they can connect their wallet to pre-prod? Or I could have them make videos of themselves doing it so I know they can do it. And I'm being ridiculous here on purpose because this is a kind of silly example that's going to apply a little bit more subtly later in this course. All right. Of course, I wouldn't ask to look over people's shoulder to see that they can connect a wallet to pre-prod. Instead, I make a pretty safe assumption that if they can do this part, if they have the PPBL contributor token in their wallet, as a facilitator, I'm going to say, yeah, you know what? Because you have that token, I'm going to assume that you got this learning target too. You see how that works? However, even though as a course facilitator, I'm not taking the time to check this directly, it's still really nice to give the student feedback. And Mesh, for example, makes it really easy to just build a front end that shows us if a wallet is connected. So the student can see a message in the UI that says, oh, I've been successful on this learning target. Who is that message for? Only the student. As teachers, we already agreed, right? The facilitators are not going to look over students' shoulders and check this. But that's separate from the concept that wouldn't it be nice for the student to know for sure that they know the thing by getting some automated feedback when possible. This is a really important distinction. There's the stuff that the teachers need to see so that we can assess it. And then there's the stuff that we want the students to notice so they can know that they know what they know. Does that make sense? Okay, this is a really, really big, important idea that if people are aligned on that, it's going to make it a lot easier to build the course. Our goal as course builders is to make sure that facilitators don't have to do a lot of bureaucratic work. The course facilitator should be able to look at really simple evidence. Hey, does that address have a contributor token? Yep, it does. Check, you're done. Did this person make a Git commit to this repository? Check, I'm done. Maybe if I want to go really deep, I could review the code on that Git commit, right? And we can decide from assignment to assignment, is the point just for the student to do anything and we don't care about the quality? Or will the facilitator have to review the code in some way? And the answer is different depending on what we're asking students to do. Right? But those are examples of evidence on chain or with a Git hash. We can see evidence, or with a presentation out of space like this, or a message on a Discord channel, right? These are the kinds of evidence that we can look at very quickly to know that the big picture work got done. Sebastian, what do you think?
Yeah, I think maybe in these initial lessons, maybe we could need some kind of balanced bureaucracy in some point, because it's important in these first lessons to gain not only some task done by the student, also we need to gain some kind of a link from the student with the course, some kind of bound, some kind of connection from the student to Gimbalabs and the course. I don't know if in some point in these free lessons we can include the participation of the gimbals, for example. How part of demonstrate if the student can connect, in this case, the Cardano wallet, and manage that wallet, the functionalities of that, but the basic functionalities of that wallet. I don't know if we can include an exercise where they could receive some kind of gimbals, because gimbals is it's a piece of the Gimbalabs. And they could manipulate, in general, manipulate the sending and receiving those pieces of tokens. Maybe in that exercise, the student can feel some kind of okay, this is cool, and they are giving me some kind of token. I know some kind of we can extract some kind of sentimental value from this first stage. That's my point. Thanks.
Love it. And keep those ideas coming. So what I did so far is I added a little drop down here so we can open and shut the 2023. We have a place to start collecting ideas, Sebastian, like that. I think this is a really cool thing to explore. And it raises questions about like, when is the right time to do that? So as we start to have a course outline, we can look for it. Yeah, sorry.
Yes, in terms of diminish the kind of control and bureaucracy behind the activity of the students. In this case, the facilitator just have to check a kind of Cardano scan transactions and verify just verify if the transaction contains those tokens.
I love that. Okay, so that's an idea for a lesson or a project that people could do, right? And let's come back to that point in just a second. So lesson idea. I want to pin this because we're going to see how this informs the development process. We could say like getting some tokens, viewing the TX on chain. Okay. Let's come back to that in just a second, as well as when we look at this outline in that regard. I want to bring it to Alex has a hand.
Thanks. Well, looking at the modules, I think I could come up with like infinite number of lessons, right? And like I cannot really point to any sociocracy page which would be familiar, but in ADR we studied that. So like coming back, we would need to limit the number of lessons that we're making in some way, but doing this directly by just discussing the items that are on the list one by one is not efficient.
Right.
So efficient way would be if I'm guided by ADR, alternative dispute resolution practices, and what they would say is like we need to discuss a certain number of like how we measure these lessons and how do we agree collectively. So like by this metric, we decide like this is going to like this we accept, and this will be later used by reviewers. So because like quite a few lessons I see that like I focus, for example, on Haskell toolchain, and I don't think it's really kind of at this point necessary to teach Haskell, because it makes sense if you want to work at IOG and do formal verification of contracts. But mostly probably a lot of people will still use Mesh, because I don't know how it works, but still it should use some API, right? So it's not inclusive of running a node locally. So the same goes for Helios, and which has its own like compile, its own smart contract language, right? And then several ways of accessing the blockchain. And one of the ways is like you don't have a blockchain, you have a mock chain, you have an emulator, and which works perfectly for like the.
So let's jump, because you're exactly right. One way that won't work is we can't go through this line by line and say, okay, what's happening here, right? And one thing that's unique about the way we're doing this, usually when we talk about writing a course outline, it's the work of a very small group of people who write a draft and then bring it for feedback. I'm bringing all of you guys into this work right now, which is very inefficient, but we're doing this just to help people learn this process of course creation. The way that I would suggest doing the work, and if I was working alone, the thing I would do is, first of all, I embrace that I'm always going to keep having ideas, right? So Sebastian shared one. Alex, you just pointed out a couple of things that we could be doing as we start moving people into understanding smart contracts. That's the most natural thing in the world. The moment I start thinking about what I want to teach in a course, I also think about how I'm going to teach it. And there's always a give and take. You never write all the student learning targets and then have all the project ideas, right? You write a couple of student learning targets, you come up with some project ideas, and then you keep going back and forth between those. And that's what we're going to do, okay? We also need to give this course a high-level shape. And so before even thinking about the learning targets, let's only for a few minutes think about the titles of these modules. So the first one says 101, getting started, or 100, getting started. I feel like it's pretty safe to assume that there's going to be something like that. I'm just going to put that there for now. I'm not going to worry too much about the words getting started, because I can always change those later. The next one, ooh, this one's a bit more debatable. This one says 101. Write your first smart contract. I'm not sure if that should be 101 anymore. Let's think about that for a second. But let's think about it in the context of the other things. It says build your first transactions is 103, or sorry, 102. Okay, let's grab that. 102 is this. And then 103 was called What You Will Learn in This Course, I think. Yeah. And then we get into 201, which had this title right here. I'm going to come to Hinson's comments in just a second. But just this part. Okay. I want to step back and think about these first 5 modules. I want to think about how they're numbered, and I want to think about like what story the student is going to be experiencing as they move through this course. I like the idea of just getting started, and I recognize that maybe we'll refactor those learning targets a little bit, but I know we have to start somewhere. Personally, I have a preference of not starting with this. By the time I tell people what they're going to learn in the course, my preference is that they've already done something, right? I never read the introduction of a textbook until much later on, okay? And it's the same idea here. We're not going to make you sit through a whole bunch of what you're going to learn. We're going to get you started and show you a few things. And then we're going to say, oh, by the way, those things you already did, now you know how this course works, okay? But what I'm really not sure about are 101, 102, and 201. I don't know if that's the right order. And so based on people's experience, how should we order these things? Alex, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking there's one, like, I hate to say it, but I think one item is missing, which is like set up your development environment, which is how you're going to write transactions and smart contracts without your environment. And then transactions and smart contract aren't really that separate, as we discussed before. So maybe there will be like 101, set up your developer environment, and then 102, like experiment with your first smart contract template or something like this.
+1.
Yeah, it's really important because the driver is talking about transactions and validation logic. So very important.
Nelson, what do you think?
I can talk a little bit about when I took the first PPBL, what my mindset was. Right now, as I've taken the course, and I'm like 2 years into it, my expectations of a course, Cardano course has changed. But if the story of how I got into this space is that I first learned about crypto, I first learned about blockchain, and then I want to get into building on blockchain, and I wanted to learn smart contracts. So when I look at the SLTs, it was really compelling because I wanted to learn smart contracts, and right there it says get started, okay, and then second thing, write a smart contract. Okay, that's what I want, and that's what I came for here. I never cared about transactions, to be honest, when I came in. That has changed right now, okay, but in the time I took the course, I did not care about transactions because I didn't know about it. I did not care about development environments. So when I started to, see smart contracts, I know that EUTXO is like this. So, smart contracts are basically transactions and rules regarding them. So what I'm saying is this order made sense when I came to learn PPBL. Yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
Henson.
Yeah. So literally, I have a similar point, but from a different angles, which is we could kind of think about it as a cross-generational kind of topics inside the Cardano ecosystem. Like we have the environment set up, in our mind because we coming from the very, very early days. Like it is a must. But currently we have a couple of different tools which we do not necessarily have to be setting up the development environments. So my idea is we could replace that with something like something tools that we don't have to set up the environment, but it's kind of tricky as well because it might very easily go into endorsing some of the particular community projects. So yeah, so this is some point that I want to raise it out, but certainly I agree that probably it's a good idea not to mention it, the environment setup at the beginning. We might do it implicitly, but it's all for the sake of the incentive of, yeah, all the students and learners, yeah.
Alex.
And I'm just the time is coming to an end, so I agree with the point, and maybe like just setting up development environment is not necessarily setting up Haskell development environment, and any software project, like any like web framework, starts from that, because like you cannot really, it's always often it's one command, like you have to install the framework, right? So if it's not necessarily has to be a big thing with installing VS Code and everything else. So maybe not setting up, but just choosing environment, and yeah, it should be in the end of the introduction so that later we can branch off to different, and then it makes sense to start the course with a low code environment like Game Changer maybe. So you can just, without setting up, or like we choose a environment which doesn't require setting up, just play around in a playground, something like this. And then you can set up your development environment locally and then branch off to the toolchain that you chose in the previous step.
Brilliant. Okay. So this is one of my biggest questions about this year's course as well, is, and if we look down to the learning target level, right? Yeah, we call this write your first smart contract. And I want to go back to Nelson's point in just a second. But what happens in this module, one thing we had people do is set up a local Plutus development environment using Nix and to compile their first script. We lose a lot of people here. And so I've been thinking a lot about when is the right time to show somebody the whole Plutus TX Nix Haskell environment. I think this is too early. I still think it probably has a place eventually in this course, but I feel pretty confident that this is too early. That said,
Yeah.
like Alex said, there's gonna be a development environment of some kind set up, even if it is just a playground like Demeter or Game Changer, right? Or even if it is, hey, let's install Aiken and use that, because that is easier than installing this whole thing. So that's a really cool question. To Nelson's point, that's why it's named like this, however, right? So yes, do we know that people need to set up their environments? Yes, we do. And we're going to work on defining what that means as teachers. Will learners be most excited if they see the words write your first smart contract or set up your development environment? I don't know. We could all have different opinions on that, but it's something to think about. And part of the reason this module is named like this is because it's only novice Cardano developers who even talk in terms of writing smart contracts, right? You could tell an expert Cardano developer because they probably don't use that phrase very often, right? But beginners don't know that. They want to write smart contracts. So we speak in their language to get them in the door, and then we start building from there. Chris, what do you think?
Yes. Well, I was to talk about my own experience in the PPBL 2023. So I get stuck, like you say, with the Nix installation. I know it's needed, but I went through, so I skipped that point, and then I moved forward and continue with all the other lessons until I changed the lucky number. Everything was much easier for me with my basic knowledge to, well, I went through everything else without any problem, but I got stuck in installing Nix for like 4 weeks. But everything else was much easier for me than installing Nix. So I could run my Cardano node in pre-prod in my local environment, and everything was much easier than installing Nix, even running a node. So maybe that is like you say, that maybe, I don't know, but maybe you may lose some students in that point if it's before then something else. That's what I'm thinking.
Thanks for validating that one. Yeah, we've seen that too often. Okay, so where we end today, our next step is to create a course outline for PPBL 2024. That's a very, very hard thing to do in a group. And so here's the assignment I'm going to take with me, and I invite anybody else to do the same. I'm going to write a new draft of a course outline just as a way of clarifying my own thinking about what I know so far about this course. It won't be a complete outline because there's some learning targets that I'm still going to have to be thinking about, but at least it'll be a first draft of something that we can use for 2024 based on what we've learned already. And I'm already going to be taking some of these ideas with me into that work. I really encourage anybody who's taking this seriously to try the same exercise. Just write your own example of a course outline, a list of modules with titles and learning targets that you can use to organize your own ideas about what this course should be. And the more of those we have to look at, the more tangible our work is going to be. So we'll be able to really jump into this work efficiently. I intend to have my draft done before next Wednesday and to be able to share it in advance. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm excited to spend my open spaces time for the next few weeks building this course. And anybody who wants to jump to that breakout room, you're invited. But again, as an exercise, going solo to write a draft of this outline is a really helpful way for each of us to clarify our thoughts.
Yeah, could we open a space in a mirror world, for example, to there each person can put their own JSON file with the SLTs.
If you make one, can you do that? And then just share it as a place to drop in. I'll be working on Notion right here, but I'm happy to go anywhere.
Oh, maybe we could do it in the mirror, in the Gimbalabs mirror, in the Gimbalabs Open Spaces mirror.
Is it okay if I post on Medium?
Yeah.
No objections.
No.
Yes.
Cool. I'll be working on Notion, but I can copy and paste to anywhere. And if anybody takes the lead on creating a shared space where we can compare them, that's awesome. Thank you. Cool. I know we're over time, so some people have had to run already, but let's do a quick checkout round to wrap for today. Harsha, how you leaving us?
I feel pretty good about this. And I also think it'd be helpful when you're building the course to have someone like me or Newman just test it out. You make a little module, and since we are pretty noobish, we can maybe like give feedback on how much we understand. Yeah.
That sounds like the editor role to me. I like it. Chris.
Yes. Well, it's interesting the way to you building the course, and for me it's amazing. You know, the course, the 2023 was was amazing. I really like it. I love it. I enjoyed it too much, and I was learning a lot. But yes, it's complex to. Right now I'm taking a look at all the work that it takes to build something like that, and yeah, I love it. I like it, and I'm learning a lot. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Nelson.
Yeah, great meeting. We're finally getting started with the work. I was remembering my time when I took the PPBL, and people were building the course with open Zoom room. So I was present while taking the course. I was in those meetings where people were making the course. That was fun. Yeah, so ready to contribute and get this thing going. Thanks, everyone.
Woo. Adrian.
Good progress. I think we can start with the course.
Alex.
Yeah, pretty good. Because I don't know if you remember, but while everybody was celebrating, I had nothing to do during Christmas. So I wrote quite a bit of material for PBL, which I can hopefully use at the moment, like soon. And yeah, I'd be happy to create some lessons about Helios and test-driven development with Helios, which I think will be impactful because again, there's like JavaScript is a big ecosystem, and it's a thing that kind of people stumble on that they start developing with a browser-based approach. But in Cardano, we would like in the end our applications to be, because the certification work is ongoing and it's not going anywhere. So being able to write coherent tests and use framework which uses like powerful testing tools will be helpful. So yeah, this and Nix, if there is space for lessons on how to set up Nix, I'd be happy to add that as well.
Claudia.
I'm glad about the progress you're making. I like the outline you're doing. I had to say again, I sound like the dumb guy in the classroom, but I cannot access Discord. I just click your link and I'm stuck on the verify stage, and I cannot see any channels. So, well, I'll tell you, I mean, that's my frustration with Discord. I find it very uninviting environment to work with. So I'm afraid I might miss things and may go in there because I will not have comfortable access. So maybe some point someone can help me with that. But otherwise, it's all really nice. I'm happy to throw in my 2 cents of comments to elaborate a nice outline of the course. Yeah. So
Thanks. And I'm sorry to hear about Discord. We got to troubleshoot that, but I don't understand the problem either. So we can't leave that hanging, but we got to make time to figure out what's going on there.
I'm sorry, I had the same problem in the beginning with when I tried to join Discord. I'm in the Gimbalabs Discord, and for some reason I refresh everything, and after a while everything works and all the channels show up in my account. So I was able to, not in the beginning, but after a while I refreshed the Discord and everything works fine. So it took a little bit of time.
And Claudio, if you hang on for a second after this meeting, I want to check something. Hinson.
Yeah, pretty excited. Finally starting the PPPL verse. Yeah, look forward to the next one and really start building the things. Yeah.
Here we go. Juan.
Well, I think it's getting easier as time progresses, and I just think when the first iteration of this PPBL was starting, how we felt about it, and it's completely, day and night, and also, well, it's kind of organic the way it is working, so I'm so excited about it.
Thanks, Juan. Sebastian.
Very good. Thanks a lot. Good session.
Thanks, partner. And Martin.
Yeah, it was nice to follow along, and yeah, maybe I make a game changer companion proposal course outline if I have time.
Here we go. That's exciting. Well, thanks everybody. Yeah, I'm so excited to be underway. We were releasing the course this time last year because we started in January just building it. And this year we started the year with governance, thinking about a driver and a way to start organizing work at Gimbalabs. That's slow work, but hopefully we don't have to do that from scratch again. And let's see if we start to realize some of the benefits of doing things this way over the next few weeks. But man, it feels good that PPBL planning season is officially underway. I've been missing this and really pumped to take it forward. So I will be posting in the education channel of the Gimbalabs Discord server about this. So we're going to go off air right here. But Claudio, I want to troubleshoot this, and I think we can figure this out right now. And anybody else who can't see the education channel, make sure to let people know about that, because this is where we're doing the work. We can't design something new. We also have Notion now, which is a great place for people to collaborate on work. But we have a process for people to get in there. And so preceding Notion, really Discord is the place to do it. So if you're checking out this video, we meet every Wednesday and Thursday at 14:30 UTC. Come check it out. Details, gimbalabs.com/calendar.